Minisode 199.
Hi. Welcome to the show.
Ghost ducks.
Hey there. Hey. How you
Haunting.
doing?
Ghostly quacking.
Great to see ya.
Welcome to the Minisode 199. One more and we're at Minisode 200 already.
Nice and easy.
This podcast has both been around way longer than I ever expected, and it still feels so much shorter than it really has been.
Do you guys remember how fun Minisode 100 was?
You better not.
I don't swear to God, I will get up and leave. I
Yeah.
will be like, bye, I'm going home.
I'm going to get one of those looping like 10-second images of myself in a very neutral spot.
Yeah. I just should prepare a video of, just like bring a video and just press play and like leave the room.
yeah. See ya. Goodbye.
Hilarious.
I mean, I'm nervous now. What the hell next week's going to be?
I promise I have no plans.
All right. Yeah, it doesn't mean, okay. Yeah, fair enough. What do you got today, boys? I got I'll save mine to the end just in case.
I got the one that I was going to do when we ended up talking about UFOs.
Same.
Okay.
I have my one from last time.
Yeah,
too.
let's go. Let's do both of those.
I got Hvaldimir.
What?
So in 2019, off the coast of Norway.
You like the cousin of Valiant Thor?
No, he's
That took me a couple seconds. I had to really think on that.
I think it's a pun because in Norway, whale is val, like with an H, val or veil. I don't know. Veil. I don't know.
I'm Dutch. Does that count? Am I Norwegian now?
No, it does not.
You're
Actually,
not. But it's Hvaldimir. So it's like Vladimir, but it's like Hvaldimir because this whale was discovered off the coast of Norway, and he had a camera harness on that said "Equipment St. Petersburg." So people theorize that he's some kind of like Russian spy whale? Because after they found him, they didn't like capture him or anything, and he just sort of like went around and would like go to fish farms, and he like was really socialized to people, and he would like look for interaction and look for hand signals. He was 13 feet long. He was like a ton. He got a kayaker's GoPro. He went viral for it. He played fetch with a rugby ball. There's one of those underwater drones, and he was like interested in it and playing around with it in a very trained feeling way, if you know what I'm saying. But also it started to get bad because he also started having scars like a manatee gets from like
motors and stuff.
Yeah, like boat propellers and stuff like that. And because he's sociable and because he's solitary, people started to get worried that he wasn't so safe. And last year in Sweden, they saw him, and people were starting to get worried because there's more people in Sweden and less fish than Norway, which is not a good recipe for this Hvaldimir. And there are two nonprofits already that exist that are all about Hvaldimir. One is called One Whale. That's all about just him being safe from tourists and shit. And the other one is Marine Mind, which tracks him and just uses him as like an ambassador to teach about the ocean in general. And so with the cooperation of the Norwegian government, One Whale was actively working to like get Hvaldimir, relocate him to some Arctic beluga whales, because he's a beluga whale. And that's where beluga whales normally are, is in the Arctic waters. And so they were starting to get a plan together and actually announced a plan to transport him. But like a couple weeks ago, this was from September 3rd, and it said on Saturday he was found. So a couple days before the 3rd, he was found dead.
Damn.
Outside of Stavanger, Norway, heavily trafficked waters. And they found him floating peacefully in the water. The quote from Marine Mind was, quote, "It is not immediately clear what caused his death. A necropsy will be conducted to determine his early passing. He was supposed to be about 14 or 15 years old. And these beluga whales usually live about twice that. The Norwegian Veterinary Institute is going to conduct it. I don't know if it's happened yet. They're going to release the results in a couple weeks, so that's probably pretty soon. If it hasn't come out yet. And there's some controversy because one whale also made an announcement, and in their announcement, it said that his death, quote, was not a natural death. So
Okay.
the founder of the One Whale org, she made some videos on Instagram, and she said that she saw, quote, holes pouring with blood from his body. And
It's
that
like he was shot a bunch.
I don't know. And out of a team of marine biologists and veterinarians who looked at the pictures of Hvaldimir's injuries, quote, not one of them believed that Hvaldimir died of natural causes. We got to visit Hvaldimir today ourselves and see him and say goodbye, and there was no question that he was dying from something very unnatural and heartbreaking. She says it was people who wanted to block his move and spread misinformation about his injuries. She said it was like people were trying to play it down, and they don't know what happened, but they think maybe that, you know, the Russian Navy uses whales and dolphins from time to time. The U.S. has done similar things. The Kremlin has never said anything about Hvaldimir, but there was a therapy whale also named Seimon who went missing, who was a missing Russian therapy whale. So nobody knows, and whether nobody knows whether he was like killed by just some assholes or in an accident or what. But story goes that, like, you know, it could be that he was a Russian spy who was killed for what he saw. But he was a fucking beluga whale.
Yeah, that's a hell of a jump.
I'm gonna see if the necropsy results. Hvaldimir's autopsy uncovers bizarre find, but mystery remains over the whale's death. So this is from a little days later. No gunshot wounds.
So that so that means no holes, or the holes
visible
weren't gunshot
visible wounds that are superficial. One of the wounds is kind of deep, but none of them affected organs or were fatal. Bizarre finding inside his mouth: 35 centimeter long stick lodged in his mouth, which could have discomforted or hindered his ability to feed, but it is unclear how long the stick had been there and whether it played any role in his death. He had an empty stomach. Many of his internal organs were already rotting by the time that his body was found. So nobody, people are wondering if maybe he got a stick stuck in his mouth and starved to death. No direct evidence of human involvement. And that's where it's at. Interesting.
It's very weird.
Interesting.
Very. I thought it was going to be aliens, but now it's just sad whale death.
Could be that he was taken out because he was a Russian spy who saw too much.
Took out with a stick. Yeah,
You never know, like,
that stick could have been laced with
It's
uranium,
untraceable. Yeah.
It's true. All right, what do you got? What do you got, Jesse?
Polonium
mine-
stick.
Mine is not about a stick, but could be aliens, but probably
fuck.
isn't.
Okay.
But so this comes from the BBC. I saw this on TV and I was like, what? And I wanted to talk about it last week, but thankfully the BBC website has another article about this. And so I thought it was really interesting. So this was about skyquakes.
Okay.
And I don't know if
what
you've
that
ever
is.
heard of these, but apparently they are very real. The way the article starts is, if you've ever heard a loud, distant booming noise with no obvious explanation, like a thunderstorm or a car backfiring, you may have experienced a skyquake.
Okay.
So
Whoa.
skyquakes, in the BBC they were talking about it there, but this article says, like, near Seneca Lake in New York, they're known as Seneca guns. In Belgium, they're called mistbofers. In Japanese, they're referred to as umanari, which
They're
means
called
cries from the sea.
Mistbofers?
Meet the Bolfers?
Mist, P-O-E, furs.
Yeah.
Mistbofers.
Yeah, you're there.
But people have been trying to explain these for a long time, be it solar flares or shallow earthquakes or offshore tsunamis or underwater caves collapsing, avalanches, whatever. People have said maybe sonic booms from military aircraft, but these have been around longer than planes that can break the sound barrier have existed. And some scientists are like, okay, maybe it's a meteor. Maybe it's a meteor, hits the Earth's atmosphere and explodes. It could be all sorts of different things. There's also gas that could escape from lake sediments. Literally, people do not know. And so in 2020, a research study at the University of North Carolina cross-referenced local news articles with data collected by a network of atmospheric sensors and seismographs, and were unable to identify any earthquake activity that coincided with the events. So they concluded the sounds have to be coming from the atmosphere. And then, giving the diversity of locations, it's possible that different parts of the world have different causes because, like an underwater cave or whatever, they're not everywhere. They thought, okay, maybe lakes had something to do with it, right? Like, surely, like Lake Seneca, like maybe skyquakes are related to bodies of water near, like, lakes. But they have no real evidence of that to support that. And it just continues to remain a mystery. And scientists don't know why. You'll just hear, like, a boom sound from the sky. And I thought that was super interesting and very relative to this show. It's just like a weird science thing that I saw an art, like a thing about on the BBC, and was like, that's curious. And
that's wild.
No one knows why it exists. It's just something that happens, and we have no answers.
That's cool. That's fucking wild. No, that's really interesting.
I never heard of this before at all.
It sounds like it's
once.
from fucking Harry Potter. Is what it, like, it sounds like made up. Oh, you haven't heard of Skyquakes?
But again, this Sky, and I was like, Skyquakes, it reminded me when I heard it of, I remember being, I don't know, like 20 and hearing someone say for the first time, thunder snow. And they're like, it's a thunderstorm, but with snow. And I was like, never once have I heard of that before. And I don't know if this is just a phenomenon that has always existed. They just gave a name to it. Or if it's like, I just don't know. But I think it's fascinating that we have no answers for this. And
yeah, I'm from California anyway.
Skyquakes.
We got none of this.
No one knows what the hell it is, but it keeps happening all over the world.
That's cool shit.
Interesting. Yep.
Well, I've got two things. One's going to be science related, but I want to start with something a little smaller. Just a little UAP update. We know AARO, Sean Kirkpatrick, left months ago at this point. I was like 4 or 5 months ago at this point. There's a lot of contention as to how he ran the AARO without getting Title 50 clearance and dismissing and not looking into other certain cases. But beside the point, he eventually left. The AARO did not disappear. They appointed a new director on August 24th. So he's been there for a little over a month, about a month and a week or so. This person individual is Dr. John D. Koslowski. He's basically comes from the same branches of government that we're talking like Christopher Mellon, Louis Elizondo, Grush. He's from that area of the military. Christopher Mellon says he thinks he might be very good to have in that position. But that's all beside the point. What ended up happening was yesterday, October 1st, the AARO, tweeted 2 tweets that kind of just, went out there and ignored. There's like 80 likes on it. There's like barely anything there. But they released a 9-page, what do they call it? It's on the defense.gov site, or let me click it open for you and I can send you guys a link. But this, copy paste, is the link they tweeted. That's I don't know why it's Chrome extension there. Hang on, I can get that part off. There you go. I'll read it. So they read 2 tweets. First, they said, read the Gen Admin message here. And that's what they posted. The second tweet was then posted. The Joint Staff General Administrative Message also directs the military services and combatant commands to transfer all data from UAP incidents, incursions, and engagements, as well as any recovered UAP objects and materials. And then they post this 9-page report. It's a PhD. That is the walkthrough, essentially, of how the fuck to report, what you have and how to report it. And they break down in detail what they mean by UAP.
It's extremely detailed.
It's extremely detailed. There are people who are like, oh, it's just them how to deal with technology that comes from another country. No, it's more than that. Literally, if you look in, they walk you through the operations, how to who you talk to and whatnot. Then they go into the definition section, which is at the bottom of page 1, 2, 3. Bottom of page 3. Is that where it is? Yep, there it is. Bottom of page 3. And it's the definitions. What the definition of a UAP is, which they say are sources of anomalous detections in one or more domain, airborne, seaborne, spaceborne, and or transmedium. They say spaceborne UAP are sources of anomalous detections above the Kármán line, i.e. 100 kilometers above Earth's mean sea level. Airborne UAP are sources of anomalous detections between Earth's mean sea level and the Kármán line. Seaborne UAP are sources of anomalous detections at or below Earth mean sea level. Transmedium UAP are sources of anomalous detections that transit more than one domain. They say UAP objects are corporeal artifacts or unidentified anomalous phenomena. UAP may contain one or more UAP objects, airborne craft exhibiting apparent anomalous capabilities. UAP material are samples in whole or in part of UAP objects. They're talking about the datum, how in any record of UAP detection, observation, identification, effects on persons or equipment, mitigation, and material exploitation. UAP datum includes, but is not limited to, observer, debriefer, and investigator notes and reports, still photographs, and full motion video, audio recordings, and platform and sensor instrument recordings. A UAP incident is any occurrence where UAP is detected by persons or sensors. A UAP incursion is any UAP incident in, on, or near U.S. military installations, operating areas, training areas, special use airspace, SUA, proximity operations, and or other areas of interest.
It implies so much weirdness is going on.
So that's how the definitions go down like another page.
Yeah.
Then there's the UAP reporting, how to report specific incidents, which is an entire separate page itself. Then there's counterintelligence notifications, required documentation for data transfers, required documentation for material transfers. They walk you through how you would transfer material to the AARO, the tasks and who to report to. All this shit is all out there. Now, what's interesting is this document was FOIA'd about a month ago by somebody else entirely.
It looks like a design document for a video game.
Kinda. This was FOIA'd like a month or so ago by somebody else, not Green Street, who runs Black Vault, but just somebody else entirely. But this was put up unprompted just yesterday by the AARO themselves without anything else. Just that's it. This is what they put out there. And it's interesting just because it's out there in the public via AARO specifically, not like a weird FOIA document that nobody's going to go look for. But even this tweet is like barely seen. This was created in May of 2023. And it goes through like who's included, like the CNO, Washington, D.C., HQDA, CAS, like all these fucking names. It's worth reading. It's worth downloading and checking out if you have any interest, because it just kind of got put out there very quietly, and that was it. It was just kind of out there.
So besides the very interesting things that are in this, I love the definitions. It feels very like Control, like when you find a document in Control.
Yeah.
But pretend I don't know the background of this. What does this change or do exactly?
This is merely an acknowledgement that the AARO has come up with actual step-by-steps how to deal with UAP material, UAP sightings, that these things are actively have a government structure and how to handle it. And that if there is UAP material, the government has an actual step-by-step instruction as to how to handle it. So
I guess my question is this confirmation that it exists, or confirmation that the government's like, oh boy, we probably should have some guidelines just in case this becomes a thing?
What it tells is like, I don't know if it means it
like,
fully
is it bureaucracy
exists,
or is it like, because if it's developed in 2023, that's when all this stuff was starting to pick up. And I wonder if in the government, they were like, well, we have to like have something for them to do, versus it being like, we have all these alien parts. Like we got to,
Yeah, it basically is. It's a good question, because what they say is it's like a directive to the Joint Staff General Administrative Office, and directs military services and combatants to like use this as how you're going to report it. And it also says that they are supposed to hand over anything they have. I don't know if it means they have anything. Obviously, they're not saying it, but it does mean that
preparing that's just in case.
That's exactly it. Like at the very minimum, it means they see it as real enough to have like an official document as to how to deal with it that is now public, but kind of farted out there in the void of Twitter.
Love the way that it's worded and what it implies. It makes my imagination go excited.
The shit that's just valuable in here is just how they break down each definition and what they mean by every specific thing. So there's no question to what they mean when we see a transmedium craft or
that's what I'm saying.
spacecraft.
It's a very bureaucratic document. Again, it feels like when you read a thing in Control, and it's like, whenever you deal with the TV that turns you into a 2D dimensional character, here's the operation. And it's like, well, will it ever turn me into a 2D? Like, probably not. But should it happen, I have all the information I need.
There's reason enough to be worried and believe, or at least to set up some sort of like thing. And again, the thing that's interesting is like, they have the thing about the things that fly over military and special access things, like all these things that we've talked about.
Sure.
And so we'll see. I don't know what this new director.
There's a zombie one, right? There's other ones.
Yeah, fair. That's so it's just interesting. We'll see what the director does. I'm really curious to see what the AARO does, but again, the funding got denied via to bump their funding got denied, as we talked about, from Rand Paul. But that's just something interesting. I want people to go check it out. I just think it's fascinating read because it's just fucking cool. But the other neat thing I wanted to talk about, and I texted this to you boys the other day, is this comes from Scientific American. Evidence of quote unquote negative time found in a quantum physics experiment.
This just sounds so sick. This just sounds like some DC Comics shit.
And obviously, negative time is sensationalizing it, but what is happening shouldn't also be happening. It's just very bizarre, and they can't make sense of it. So let me go through it. Physicists showed that photons can seem to exit a material before entering it, revealing observational evidence of negative time. Quantum physicists are familiar with blah, 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 blah. Sometimes as waves, particles can be connected to one another by a quote unquote spooky action at a distance, even over great distances. And quantum objects can detach themselves from their properties. They use like the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland detached itself from its grin. Now researchers led by Daniela Angelo of the University of Toronto have revealed another oddball quantum outcome. Photons, wave particles of light, can spend a negative amount of time zipping through a cloud of chilled atoms. In other words, photons can seem to exit a material before entering it. It took a positive amount of time, but our experiment observing that photons can make atoms seem to spend a negative amount of time in the excited state is up, wrote Ephraim Steinberg, a physicist at the University of Toronto, in a post on Twitter. And the new study, which was uploaded to the preprint server at arxiv.org on September 5th, but has yet to be peer reviewed. The idea for this work emerged in 2017, they said. At the time, Steinberg and a lab colleague, then doctoral student Josiah Sinclair, were interested in the interaction of light and matter. So what they basically say is what they do is they take a photon and they fire it through a cloud of electrons. And when it goes through, a photon will either bump into something and interact with it, which excites the photon for a little bit before it comes out on the other side, or it will like mist them and just come out the other side of the cloud. And what they're noticing is like sometimes the photon starts reacting as though it interacted with an electron prior to it even reacting with an electron. And sometimes it'll come out of the cloud. And after it comes out of the cloud, then the electron acts like it got bumped into. And it's just like, which the time so there basically makes no sense.
Both ways, it's the cause is coming before the effects.
Sometimes, yeah. And
does
somebody
this have to do with our ability to measure it, though?
I'm not a quantum scientist. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, what are we talking? Like at that point, what are we talking about?
So here's what they say. After 3 years of planning, his team developed an apparatus to test this question in the lab. Their experiments involved shooting photons through a cloud of ultra-cold rubidium atoms and measuring the resulting degree of atomic excitation. Two surprises emerged from the experiment. Sometimes photons would pass through unscathed, yet the rubidium atoms would still become excited, and for just as long as if they had absorbed those photons. Stranger still, when photons were absorbed, they would seem to be remitted almost instantly, well before the rubidium atoms returned to their ground state, as if the photons, on average, were leaving the atoms quicker than expected. And I remember reading somebody put up like a metaphor to really Eli 5 it, and this is obviously a vast and gross oversimplification. What they say is like, imagine I let you borrow $1. And I know you're gonna give me that $1 back at some point. I don't know when you're gonna give it back to me, but you're gonna give it back to me. Over the course of the next few days, while I'm waiting for you to give me back the $1, every once in a while, when I look in my wallet, most of the time it's empty, but there's $1 there out of nowhere, and then it won't be there forever until you actually give it back to me, and they set their stated grounded states as they're supposed to be, because then it puts the atom back where it started. It's all very, very complicated, and I can only barely grasp at the barest of fundamentals, maybe. But I'm just going to lean on the professionals and say that their theoretical framework and their tests are
all those
fascinating.
People that made cool posts on Reddit and videos for us about science stuff.
Yeah.
We need you. Where are you at?
Yeah.
We want you for this. I want that. I want someone to make me a big post that's like, here's the science, dum-dum. Like, I want that so badly.
Yeah, so they'll say the last part I'll read is like, to understand the nonsensical finding, you can think of photons as the fuzzy quantum objects that they are, in which any given photon's absorption and remission through an atomic excitation is not guaranteed to occur over a certain fixed amount of time. Rather, it takes place across a smeared out probabilistic range of temporal values. As demonstrated by the team's experiments, these values can encompass instances when an individual photon's transmit time is instantaneous, or bizarrely, when it concludes before the atomic excitation has ceased, which gives a negative value. Basically, the excitation should stop the moment the photon is not interacting with it, but the excitation continues even when it comes out of the cloud sometimes. And they say, quote, I can promise you that we were completely surprised by this prediction. As soon as we were confident we hadn't made a mistake, Steinberg and the rest of the team, I had to move on to do a postdoc at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology by this point, and began planning to do a follow-up experiment to test this crazy prediction of negative dwell time and see if the theory would hold up. So yeah, I don't fucking know, man. Like,
This
it's
is definitely
weird.
one of those things where I need like a visual aid.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
when
I
they
need
talk
some
about
help.
like firing like particles and how it's like it forms two lines, but sometimes like I needed a visual aid to understand that whole bit of quantum
same.
mechanics. This is one of those same things where I'm like, hold on, wait, what?
Yeah. What they mean by negative time, I think, is the thing that's like they shoot it in the cloud, it comes out instantaneously, and then items excite like they're still in there. It's not true negative time. It's just it shouldn't be an instantaneous transmission and then have the vibrating electrons afterward. It should all be happening as it's moving through. And that's what's weird about it. So
Starting
it's
to
like a
just
net
take my
negative
mind
time,
apart.
a
Yeah.
net negative reaction time from the atoms within the cold Rubicon cloud or whatever it was called. So it's fucking weird. I can't pretend to fully understand it, but it's definitely weird.
Crazy.
I'll leave you on that. Thank you all so much for supporting us here at patreon.com/Chilluminati pod.
Imagination stimulating.
Imagination Station, dude.
Yeah. Go read that and then go read the UAP thingy. And then sit with that and wonder. We'll be back next week with another mini-sode. Thank you all so much. We appreciate you. We love you. Goodbye.
Bye.